Thank you everyone. Today we are launching the Easter Road Safety Campaign. Every year we see hundreds of Queenslanders die on our roads through fatalities. This year alone 70 Queenslanders have lost their lives, 15 more than last year. On average we have 300 Queenslanders' lives lost on the road, and across the whole of Australia over 2,000 Australians are killed in motor accidents, and most of those motor accidents are avoidable. And I really do implore people this Easter holiday period to remember the fatal five, to make sure they look after their mates, that they enjoy this beautiful country that we have here in Queensland, but they come home safely. And we can do that by simply staying cool. And I really do challenge all Queenslanders this year to have a zero fatality for the Easter break. So stay cool, and I challenge every Queenslander to have a zero fatality for the Easter break. Because just like here, as I've said before, there's many legends here behind us on the footy field, and I want you to be a legend in your motor vehicle and look after your family, look after your friends, and make sure that you don't put our emergency service workers as well as other extended family members through the pain and suffering of attending a fatality. It's all too common, and they're very avoidable, and we can work together to make sure that we can have a safe period. So plan your trip, organise yourselves with your families. Be patient on the roads. We see too many people getting frustrated, getting anxious, and doing the most stupid things with their vehicles. And a vehicle, it's not just the driver they affect the people in the car and other innocent Queenslanders. So take responsibility for your driving, drive safe, stay cool, and we want a zero tolerance for this Easter break. Also today, we'd also like to announce that from midnight tonight, there'll be fixed speed cameras fixed to the Gaven overpass in relation to the M1 motorway and the Smith Street overpass. Now we've seen over 19 fatalities in a 5-year period in this particular area, and again we obviously take the most action we can to ensure the safety of all Queenslanders. And I really do implore people to drive safely over this Easter break. Now the reason why we're also here, I've got also the Minister for Transport as well, because as a government, road safety is not just one department's issue, and it's a new and exciting time that we see all the departments in this LNP government working together to increase the road safety message, but also the strategies in relation to ensuring that Queenslanders can travel safely on our roads and our highways, not just in this Easter period, but for the years ahead. And we'll be doing that for a number of strategies, which we'll be revealing in the coming months. What we've also seen is, obviously, I can go to the technical side with the Commissioner shortly, but in relation to that is when we've seen certain traffic enforcement actions being introduced, we'll see a decrease in the spike in relation to fatalities. So when we've seen national or state initiatives, whether it be in relation to seat belts, drink driving, whether it be demerit points, whether it be in relation to the Fatal 4 and Fatal 5, we normally see that there's been an increase in fatalities, and where action has been in place, we'll see a decrease. Unfortunately, we have to be constantly making sure that we have the latest information, but obviously we have the resources to be in place to have an enforcement action and an education action, and also we have to have a long-term strategy with the education sector to ensure that young people get the message as early as possible that it is a privilege to have a driver's licence, not a right.
A lot of people will obviously consider, speed cameras to be revenue raising and nothing more. Would you say that it's a last resort when it comes to policing, that they have no choice in places like Gaven?
Look, I'd be happy if we had zero fatalities and the police didn't even have to issue one traffic ticket. But I can guarantee you, if you're out there doing the wrong thing, if you're speeding, the full force of the police will be enforcing the traffic regulations, and there'll be obviously in relation to this Easter break, there'll be a zero tolerance in relation to the enforcement of traffic infringements to ensure that all Queenslanders can get home safely.
Is it the last resort though? Have you tried everything else?
Look, we're continuing to try everything from education to different types of enforcement. That's why we've also increased, obviously, we've got the seatbelts and safety campaign from the Department of Transport. 30 Queenslanders on average per year lose their lives for not wearing a seatbelt. You know, it is absolutely ridiculous, and people really have to obey the laws, and we'll continue to keep abreast of any changes, and we'll do whatever it takes to give a clear message that you have to drive and obey the road rules.
Has there been a trial period for the last week?
Sorry.
When you had speed cameras there? I don't see
Sorry,
a link.
listen.
There's no link. You had 950 crashes last Easter. You had speed cameras there. You think putting in more speed cameras this year is going to make fewer crashes?
Well, Queensland Ambulance Service attended over 800 incidences over the Easter break, and what we've seen is that we simply cannot sit on our hands in relation to road safety. We have to try every type of avenue, and in the past we've seen where speed cameras have been put in place, it has decreased the amount of fatalities. When, for the instance, in relation to the Gavin area, we had in a 5-year period, over 19 fatalities, all involving speed. So it is obviously an issue in speed in that particular area, and this is one of the many ways in which we'll address it. We will have fixed cameras, we'll have mobile cameras. This Easter period we'll have covert and overt police actions. And I just remind everybody that police will be anywhere at any time to enforce the Traffic Act, and it'll be a priority for police for this Easter period. Just the other day on the M1, when police did a covert operations, they got 40 drink drivers in one evening. Now, with all the campaigning and all the messaging, it still simply is up to the individuals to take that responsibility, and it is deplorable to think in this day and age that there was 40 drink drivers in one evening on one particular highway. So we will continue to evaluate all our resources and all our legislative resources, as well as working in with all government departments. It is not one certain part of the community that takes responsibility for driving. It's not just the police, the Department of Transport. Everybody has to shoulder the burden and make sure that they can drive safely.
You've got 15 higher than last year though, same time last year. What's going wrong? What's the problem?
Well, that's why obviously driving safety is a complex issue, and we've seen peaks in relation to the number of fatalities. And I would be happy if there wasn't even one fatality, and that's why we have to constantly keep abreast of what resources and what actions we can take to reduce this type of fatalities. And it's not just the here and now, it's what we want to do in the future in relation to making sure that people, especially our younger generation who are more risk aversive in relation to their driving actions, are not just skilled up in relation to how they drive, but also being responsible for their driving actions.
This is the first Easter we'll see the Fatal 5 campaign. Was the addition of inattention successful over Christmas?
It certainly will, from the information that we received from obviously the traffic branch to date. It's sending a message out to the community. It will take time. There is obviously still a lot more to do, but we'll certainly not be shirking any responsibility into that driver safety message. When we see, you know, in relation to inattention and mobile use, an average of 33,000 traffic offences issued every year. You know, and people now know that it is included in the Fatal 5, and from talking to members of the community, even my local community, I can see that people are starting to learn, maybe not as quick enough as we like, but we'll certainly be highlighting that in the Fatal 5 with speeding, seat belts, drink driving, fatigue on these long journeys while we go out and enjoy our beautiful environment, and that inattention as well.
It's not just the emotional cost, is it? It's also a rather high economic cost of all of these fatalities.
Look, we've seen figures coming back that an average fatality is anything up to $1 million, and but it's not just the money; it's the emotional side of these fatalities that take away a person's life in an instant, and loved ones don't get a chance to say goodbye. It's the impact on their extended family as well as the emergency services. And what is absolutely ridiculous is the fact that these accidents are avoidable. Seatbelts, speeding, drink driving, inattention, fatigue. I ask Queenslanders please to take responsibility for their actions, and I make no apologies for the enforcement that the police will be coming their way this Easter campaign.
Commissioner, where are some of the
Sorry.
hotspots that you'll be deploying the police outside of...
Sorry, Emerson.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
No, thank you for that question. Obviously, it's all over. It's in the entire state of Queensland. The National Road Safety Campaign, Operation Crossroads, commences basically at 1 minute past midnight tonight. It goes till 1 minute to midnight on Monday night. So the whole Easter period is covered. But this isn't just about enforcement. It's what the Minister said. People need to take responsibility. This is about everyone's child. This is about their brothers, their cousins, their husbands, their wives. This is about people actually taking real responsibility for their driving behaviour. That's how we're going to save lives over this Easter period, and that's how we're going to continue to save lives throughout the year.
But there must be some hotspots that police see fatalities and crashes each Easter. A lot of people make those long journeys.
Absolutely they are, and we focus on highway driving over the Easter period because that's where, as you all know, that's where a lot of the vehicles are. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to be in the back streets as well, because that's another area where we want to make sure that everyone's safe.
There also seems to be a particular focus on younger drivers this season. Is that the case?
Not necessarily. Obviously, we're after people who just don't obey the road rules and have no respect for other road users and for the lives of those other members of the community. So we'll target anyone who breaks the law. It doesn't matter what age they are.
Commissioner, can I ask you in relation to the Townsville, the youth crime issue up there, the task force?
Just before we go, can I just get Minister
hi,
Emerson
that's
to... Minister,
Oh,
sorry.
you're so kind of you. Hey, look, can I just reinforce the message from the Commissioner? Yep. I just want to reinforce the message from the Minister and the Commissioner. Look, we had 1 fatality last year over this period. We want 0 this time. The reality, it's not just about yourself, it's about those other road users, your families, your friends, who will suffer from your failure to act responsibly on the roads this Easter. We have got our commercial campaign out there, our Better Slow Down campaign. Now we're running that for 5 weeks, much longer than is normal, with very graphic commercials out there to sheet home that message that you are taking your lives in your hands, but also other people's lives. So please, we're begging you out there, please be sensible on the roads this year. Try to reduce it down from 1 to 0 in terms of fatalities. We are well above where we were this time last year, in 15 above the road toll from last year. But we are begging you, please slow down, follow those fatal 5s and be aware of them and act sensibly over the next couple of days.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Sorry, thank you. The task force, this is a question from our North Queensland Bureau, but she's saying that, cars are stolen up there every day, that they're constantly seeing issue with crime there. Is youth crime exploding in Townsville? Getting worse?
Obviously, we monitor crime wherever it's occurring throughout the state, and where there's a spike, we do something about it. When we need to deploy extra resources, we also do that. But in terms of specifics about task force operations right across this state, I'd rather the crooks and those people who have no respect for the law to be the first to find out when a task force rolls into their area.
So the boot camp was announced for Townsville on the weekend, and now this. Is it something that residents have been lobbying for, or is it something that police have decided for?
You know that we have a long history of using task force operations in what we call place and case management. So where we see an issue that needs extra attention by our police, we certainly form up a task force and use that type of facility. Some of the most notable in recent times are Operation Seymour down the Gold Coast a couple of years ago. Certainly Operation Escalate and Escalate 2, which occurred in Cairns over the last few months. And certainly we're looking at Townsville as an area where we can use that type of operation again.
Minister,
Yep.
I have a couple of questions on the task force as
Yes.
well. What's changed since you were up in Townsville and the Premier launching the boot camp? Has something happened since then for it to be announced now?
Look, all of these issues, we're coming to a bubble even before the last election. And even for myself, I worked in Townsville as a police officer for over 14 years, and you could see the different types of offences occurring, particularly in the Townsville and North Queensland area, in relation to obviously property offences, unlawful use, and youth type of offences. So it is obviously being increasing over a number of years, and that's why we set about in making sure that we had those 1,100 new police officers, trying to make sure we had the restructure, and I really do thank the Commissioner for the restructure in relation to ensuring that we have a greater capacity in task force operations across the whole of the state and the flexibility that we have within that area, but also making sure that that these criminals do not know when police are going to be coming their way. And we saw that in Operation Escalate and some magnificent results through that, but it's also having a short-term task force capacity that is then obviously enhanced by a long-term capacity in relation to police numbers, in relation to the type and operation and infrastructure that we have in policing, and we'll do that for the Townsville area. But I'm not going to come into a particular area throughout the whole of Queensland and give a short-term quick fix, band-aid fixes. The communities are sick of band-aid effects, and that's why we as a government have made sure that through the Attorney Generals, we've got the boot camps we're changing and having a whole obviously investigation in relation to street crime, but from a policing perspective, we're making sure that we get the maximum amount of police to those particular areas that are most needed. And in relation to Townsville, specifically about the task force, is I'll be working with the Commissioner over the coming weeks to look at the short-term and the long-term strategies in relation to Townsville.
Will it be staffed locally or from Brisbane?
Oh, for the detail.
No, thanks, Minister. Obviously, we can do the ideal is to be able to deploy staff from anywhere in the state to a task force operation, and that's our mantra at the moment. We certainly did that with Operation Escalate. We used resources from around the state, and for any other large task forces like this, that's exactly right. It doesn't rule out, though, that in the future that we won't take officers locally and put them into a task force situation in a time-limited way to address a specific issue, and that's the very nature of task force operations. I'm not going to talk about specifics in relation to any future operational matters.
Can you tell us exactly what they will be targeting? Is it cars getting broken into? Is it things getting vandalised? What is it?
Oh, look, it's the whole gamut of crime, but where we see spikes, and we need to provide extra resources to our police officers who are on the ground right now, where we need to provide them with the support of extra staff. Obviously, we'll be operating across the full gamut. I think you know that there's a significant connection between people who offend on the road regularly and criminal acts. So there's a wide, a very broad scope and vision for how we operate in these task forces.